Hi, thank you for joining us today for another segment of Meet the Agent. I'm your host, Alexis Sties, and I'm here interviewing Jason Buck. He is an expert realtor out of California. He works with RE/MAX Estate Properties, and he services the Palos Verdes area. And he's also actually was just named the 2019 Realtor of the Year. So first, I just want to say thank you for making yourself available and congratulations.
Why, thank you so much. This is very nice.
Oh, you're very welcome. So first, I kind of curious about that, about your award, you're being Realtor of the Year. What would you attribute your success in that way to?
Well, this is an award that I was nominated by my peers, and they had a lot of votes, and I do a lot to try and help our industry. So I'm a board member, which I volunteer for, and I go to board meetings once a month where we're helping decide where the association wants to go. And then there's several other committees that I belong to, whether it be membership or I chair the global committee. So I have CIP, Certified International Property Specialist, CIPS, as a designation from NAR, and I had gone to Costa Rica and Panama exclusively for many, many years and have relationships there. So I take those relationships here and then promote them to people here, as well as working with Chamber of Commerce and the local community on who's looking for something outside or who's coming in and needs help. So international has been a big part. Probably the biggest one, though, is the PV Specialist course. I teach a course on Palos Verdes history. It's very, very unique. This is a very special community that was purchased by one guy, and then he hired other people to create a team, to create a homeowners association, and founded the city in 1924, of which many other cities now have adopted the same kind of philosophy. To have architectural control and specific guidelines on what you can or can't do to your lot or to your home, to try and keep a uniform consistency, and therefore prices actually do a lot better in those neighborhoods.
Well, in addition to the benefit of being nominated for awards such like this, what is it that's so important to you about establishing those relationships with your fellow realtors in the community?
So I'm an agent that doesn't really believe in single agent dual representation. I feel that you don't have an ability to cater to both sides under your fiduciary duty. So if I'm working with the seller, I want to do the best for the seller, vice versa for the buyer. But representing both, you put yourself in a position of, well, which one do you tend to lean towards? It can be done, but I feel like it's better off for all parties concerned if that wasn't there. So I try to be fair, and I feel that a lot of these peers that are out there in my industry are people that I may work with, and therefore I work on my relationships with them. I don't know what listing they may have next week, or I may have, where we may be together. And oftentimes the agent is only a voice for the client, but that's the voice you hear. And if the client's fighting, the agent's fighting, then it just makes it all tough. Working with agents that you want to work with and have a relationship with makes the job a lot easier. So therefore, I'm still trying to develop relationships with all agents.
Well, in turning now to how you built and structure your specific book of business, can you talk a little bit about how, when you first started getting into the industry, what were how did you build your book of business?
So when I first got in, the market was pretty good in 1998, and it had a huge upswing, 2002, 3, and 4. I did really well, and that's when I got into global and I started traveling a lot. I found that by me being in a good headspace, it was desirable. My clients were in a good headspace, and I knew the area, I knew what I was doing. But to have these other things that I concentrated on to bring more stuff to the table, I think that was a philosophy that I continue to do. So even now, I'm still trying to take classes to learn more about the indigenous plants in the area and what was here before I was, and always trying to offer some kind of information. So I've always been trying to learn more to be able to provide more.
Mm-hmm. And for your specific client base, do you work mainly, are you at the point now where you're working mainly referrals, or how do you get most of your transactions? Where do you find them?
I do a lot of business by referral, but at the same time, I find open house to be highly effective. I've done internet leads, and it just hasn't been, my neighborhood's pretty much $1 million and up, and an internet lead isn't always searching for over $1 million home. Doing open house, I know that the people that come to the house came for a reason, and I can then help them understand why that home is priced the way it is, or why that neighborhood is, or what other homes in that neighborhood might fit them. But that person walking through the door came through the door for a reason, and I find that that's just such a better way to start and get a lead.
What would be the motivation? Like, why are people attending open houses? So now when you have ways that you can view houses easily online, it's not as much of a necessity to see it in place, but what are they looking for when they come? Are they looking to actually meet with an agent or to see the property, or are they just kind of looking around?
So there's two people, and the first one's easy. It's the looky-loo. Those people live in the area and they just want to know what their neighbor's home, what they live like, or what it looks like, so that they could sell their home or just have an idea of what that range. And that's 20 to 30%. On the first day, it could be 40% of the people are those neighbor looky-loos. The second person is one that's there to see the property. Even though that they can get these digital images or even digital video and take a look at the home, most people still need to be there, feel it, touch it, absorb it, and understand it. A lot of these digital photos present the home in a very good way or a good fashion. They'll say they have a view, but it's a view. So, going to the home, there's nothing better for them to really get their feet wet, so to say, and see how big this view is, or how the kitchen layout is, or if it's an open floor plan, and not be deceived by what photos the agent chose to show them, and not show them the telephone pole in the middle of the backyard, or the wires, or whatever other series of things that could be not as appealing as they presented.
And turning to this idea of technology and how it's sort of impacted the real estate fields, I talk to a lot of realtors that kind of name the digital revolution and technology as like the number one disruptor or impactful change to the industry. And for a lot of realtors, I think it makes them a little nervous, or they're a little feel overwhelmed about this idea of finding their place within the technological world that we're living in. So can you talk about some ways that you've been impacted by technology and the digital revolution, and how you kind of make it work for you?
Sure. In 2011, I got a call from a guy in China wanting to look at a house for sale. And I just did not feel comfortable selling him that home until he had seen it. He said, look, I can't go there. So I shot a very small video with a small camera. He couldn't even watch it on YouTube because China blocks YouTube. So I found a way to get it to him, and he watched it, and he said, all right, I'm ready to make an offer. And I said, well, aren't you going to come over here? He says, no. He goes, Jason, I watched the video 17 times. I want to buy this house. Are you going to sell it? I'm like, yeah, okay. So, it goes back to video and technology and having the ability to, you can use your phone. I use a really nice camera. I render it, make it down to a small size. I send a link. I make it as easy as possible for the people to just click something and see what they're asking for. That's the easiest way that it's benefited me. The easiest way that it's hurt me is by some of these other websites that have taken over, where they control our database, and they're putting out information there that competes with agents, and that makes it extremely difficult for the consumer to find a qualified agent that's really willing to work for them and help them with the best price, with inspections, and the contract. A lot of people feel like, oh, I'm just going to get the best number, and they don't realize that there's so many other parts to it, and that a really good agent isn't just looking at that number. Yeah, they can help you there, but there's other parts like the inspections and the inspection repair request, where they can even save you more money or make sure that you're getting everything that you're expecting. If you get a property with a bad sewer pipe, your agent didn't refer an inspector that would check that sewer pipe, it's a $250 inspection that could be a $20,000 expense. So understanding what you're getting and having someone here that can explain all of that and all the details to get you through it is it's worth your weight in gold when you're spending over $1 million. And I wouldn't allow some technological guru that can throw a link or a broadcast email out there that catches your eye. They may be good at that part, but you really want to make sure that you've got a realtor that's good at all these parts.
Well, and how would you know that you found that kind of realtor that's going to be able to service your transaction in all ways, not just get you the best price?
The consumer needs to do some homework, not just on pricing and what the homes are going for. They really need to look at the agent and the track record of the agent, and how long they've been in business, and their comfort level. There's the smell test. If something doesn't smell right, well, then maybe it's not. And if you're getting along with the guy, he seems to know his stuff, you can look for a testimonial or a referral and find out if he's telling the truth. There are a lot of slick people that want to make money in this business because they can. Knowing that they are ethical and honest, I think is really important. And therefore having designations that prove that, well, then that's something that one person may choose to look at. Is he a Realtor with the emblem and that logo? And has he done other things that aren't just self-satisfying, but satisfying the industry or other realtors as a whole? Those people probably are more honest, ethical person.
Okay, so you were talking about how potential homeowners and homeowners and home buyers need to qualify the agent that they work with. On the other hand, what are some ways that you qualify your prospects to see if there's somebody that you would want to work with?
Yeah, and that goes usually, and it's tough. It's hard to qualify them. I have a tough time asking them to sign the buyer-broker agreement, which would bind them to you, so to say. I mean, there's ways they can get around it. Usually if they will sign it, you've got a good relationship and a client lock. If they won't, then you may be able to say, okay, this person may not stick with me. In my neighborhood, where it's pretty exclusive and changes every couple miles, and I have all this inherent knowledge, I'm usually willing just to throw it out there and give it to someone. I'm starting to change that strategy a little bit to make sure that they know that this is something that I've developed over a long period of time and that I pay attention to try and hone it in and make sure it's as good as it can be, so that they recognize the value in working with an agent like myself, and not that they can just go to the next person and get a deal done.
Okay. And I'm curious, do you have a coach or a mentor in the industry?
I do. I've taken the Buffini class. I'm currently working with Travis Robertson. I have mentors that are within my own office, and that has always been the most beneficial. These are people that are peers, friends / associates. I have a network group, which is also extremely beneficial, where we get together and we talk about listings. What do you think about it? What do you think about it? Wow, what did it sell for? What's happening on the market? What's the buzz on the street? In discussing, what's working and what isn't working, so that we're all better agents. And that's, these are important, big items that I feel makes one stick out more than the others.
Definitely. Yeah, I think coaching is really important, especially when it comes to accountability, because I think we all know what we're supposed to do. It's just a matter of doing it.
That's right.
Okay. And do you make yourself available as a coach or a resource to new agents? If they ask me, I tell them, and I get that all the time, especially because I teach the class on PV history. So I field calls even from agents from other brokerages. I have a couple younger agents right now that I'm working with. For instance, I saw just recently a neighborhood that has 1 or 0 active listings. All the things that have sold 8 to 10 days, 80% of them, and that's over the last 3 months, and that's like 40 homes. I'm like, that's a market you should go knock or get involved or meet people, because those homes are flying off the shelf. So, I have helped set them up with mailers and door knockers and things that they can do to try and help their own business, and they'll drag me along if they need me. Well, and I think that success has a lot to do with your expectations as well, because if you have that misaligned expectation, then it's hard for you to really track or keep perspective on how well you're doing or not doing. So when you talk to incoming agents or agents who are new to the industry, what are some of the misconceptions or misunderstandings that you see that they have, and what would be the right expectations to have instead?
So one misconception is that the job is easy. It is definitely not easy. It's not simply inventory control. These are the homes on the market. These are the ones that sold. This is what they go for. The understanding the contract is absolutely key. When you look at being a realtor, the salesperson is in that line of things that you do, but you're most often a psychologist trying to figure out what's happening with the person and what they want. But the other big one is an attorney. These are contracts. They're bound. You have to understand not only what it says, but what the options are on both sides of that. young agents tend to think, well, I already know this, it's easy, I check this box, I do this, that. And that's not always the case. It comes through experience and after hitting up so many crazy things that happen, which it always seems like it does. Even now, 20 some odd years in the business, I'm still learning stuff. And being willing to keep an open mind and not only just for your approach on how you handle it, but to be ready for something to come and shock you. I think that's pretty common in this industry.
And either based off of your personal experience in the industry or what you've seen with other agents, about how long did it take for you to really start seeing, a profit, or that you were able to really feel like your business was finally gaining the momentum and going in the way that you wanted?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to start in a time where the market was going up, so I did have some good successes even in the first few years. But it wasn't until after the recession from 7 to 10, so 13, 14 years in the business, that I really hit a new plateau and was able to really go to a whole nother level. And that was a lot of fun.
Okay, so even with you, it took a few years before you really felt like you were okay. Well, and then, so I'm curious about your prediction. So I know that you've grown up and you're still practicing within Palos Verdes, and California's got a pretty important economy anyway. But what do you see for happening in the 2020 market? Like, is it still a good time to buy?
Gosh, if you can get a home, it's a great time to buy. Here's the problem, is that we really do have a lack of inventory, and most nice homes that come up, if the agent, which most are now, pricing aggressively, they're pricing them for multiple offers. The last home that I saw in the neighborhood that I mentioned came out at 1.2. They had 14 offers. It makes it incredibly competitive, and it's really tough. Most agents will say, hey, submit your best and final. So they're putting the impetus on that buyer to then say, hey, I will pay this much. Being able to guide your buyer on where is the ceiling and what would be too much of a deal is worth its weight, but also having whatever knowledge you can provide about what some of the other offers are. It's not always price. One guy may be 10% down, another 20, another 30. And when you're going up and over what the asking price is, the lender may then cause some issues, and therefore appraisal becomes a big deal. So there's just so many factors, and having an understanding of each of them and how they play into the game, being able to convey that to your client is so very important, that they're on the same page and they can understand what the pros and cons and what their options are. That's what I keep thinking. It's give them the ability to make a decision based on what options are available.
And when you're evaluating your budget or starting to, price what it is that you can afford, what are some of the things that you need to be aware of? Like, is the cost just is the price of the house or the monthly mortgage payment, is that the only cost that goes into it? Or what else do you need to take into account when you're looking and figuring out your budget?
From a buyer's perspective?
Correct.
Yes. So the buyer can wrap their property tax into their monthly payment through their lender if they want. So PITI, property principal interest tax. They can do it that way, or they can take a lump sum. It depends on how well they manage their funds. Understanding the bottom line of what they're paying every month means something. In my opinion, though, I always look at the exit strategy of that property in correlation to that neighborhood. So how is the neighborhood in whole doing? Where does that property sit in line with the rest of the homes in the neighborhood? And does it have an ability? Can that client then create more equity by doing improvements? Or is it already capped out and it's just going to stay with where the market is? You asked, how is the market doing? The trends for this year appear to be that with low inventory and low interest rates, we're still going to have a lot of buyers ready to go. So if you can get a listing, well, you price it right, you're doing really, really well on guaranteeing that you will have some business. Overpricing the home, the buyers are very well educated, and the kiss of death, so to say, is anything that's been on the market over 60 days. Buyers literally will see that and say, why is it 60 days on a good market or 90? And they'll just turn around and say, forget it, not even interested. So pricing it from the get-go accurately is what you really need to do, or you could be doing a disservice to your client.
Well, and I want to turn now to a little bit more individualized information, meaning I'm curious how you structure your day. So I talk to some agents that say, from 7 to 10 a.m., that's when I prospect, and every day it's 7 to 10 a.m. And then some have more of a fluid sort of schedule where they can fit that prospecting in. So I'm curious with you, what is your method? Like, do you wake up in the morning and know exactly where you'll be every hour of the day?
No, I have set appointments for clients that choose to set something up for a showings or whatnot. I have board meetings that I attend to on behalf of the various committees and things that I belong to. So those are set schedules. As far as my timing, I choose to work either in the afternoon or late at night as opposed to 7 in the morning. I'd never call someone early in the morning. I would get up and do my planning stuff. I look at what came on the market. I look at, that's something hot. I need to put that in front of everything before I go and hit the other tasks that may be scheduled for that day. I find that afternoon to evening is the best time to try and reach people or reach my clients. Once again, I've got to try and work when they're not at work, because calling someone when they're on the job, they're like, hey, look, you just got to call me later. So I try to avoid putting them in a bad position so that we can develop that relationship and work together.
So they can keep that job, afford that house. Gotcha. Okay. And so you've mentioned too that you work in a business in which you're working when they're not, when your clients aren't. And I know too that you are a family man that, and I could see in the background, the alphabet up there. So it seems to me like your family is also really important to you. How do you manage that? How do you, are you able to protect your time with your family and yet still be available for somebody who's ready to go or calls you at a random time and just wants to go look at property?
Well, that in lies a big challenge. And that's why being an individual proprietor, you can choose when you're taking a vacation. So, planning a vacation for family and making sure that they stay happy is pretty important. When I get some of those calls, I do have to put that first, and I say, I'm sorry, I'll be back later. But it also helps you recognize when you are home and you are able to play, how valuable that is. And I don't take that for granted. So I let my daughter know all the time how much I love her. And mom.
Well, and then in closing, I kind of want to offer you up as a little bit more of like a resource or a mentor to new agents who are getting into the business. So let's say you're talking to an agent who just got licensed. So February 18th, I got my license, I'm ready to go. What are some of the first things you need to do? Like, do you find a team or do you just find your brokerage? Like, where do you start?
So personally, I would look at where do you want to work? How are you going to get business? Do you have a whole bunch of friends that are wealthy and they want to buy houses? Well, then you're really lucky. Find out where they want to buy houses and make that your home. But most people would pick a farm. A farm is a geographical location that you say, all right, this is my hub and I'm going to expand from here. So once you have your farm, now you need to find, I would say, an agency or a brokerage that operates in that farm and has good credibility. Remax Estate Properties, we have 14 offices up and down the coast. So I have a really good stretch and pan. I can call those agents in any one of those neighborhoods and find out what's coming up or ask them, hey, did we price this right? So that's valuable information. And then you can go to a step further and find a mentor, someone that's maybe older and wants to get out of the business or doesn't have enough energy to door knock or do open houses. And you can say, hey, I'm happy to do it, and be willing to give them something for it. I mean, they're giving you an opportunity. Give them a referral fee or something. It's all legal. But once again, creating relationships that you can work back and forth, to me, that's really valuable. Once you find your brokerage, then you sign up with the local board. The board of realtors where you hang your license, and then you can start to look into other measures, whether you join Chamber of Commerce or you start to join committees with your board because they're in different brokerages, so you're just meeting more people. Our board has a board breakfast once a month. I always attend. There are things that I do where I'm always in front of the other agents in my industry and getting to know them. So those things are just the key to start.
Great. So you got to ingratiate yourself with your real estate professionals as well as the larger community.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for filming this with us today. I had a pleasure speaking with you, and congratulations again for your 2019 Realtor of the Year.
Well, thank you. You're very kind. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.